All right, what is going on, everybody? Another day, another Celtics win, which is the opposite of what I was saying for most of the year. Well, I guess half the year now, because it was the refrain was another day, another miserable Celtics loss, and now it's another day. You assume the Celtics are going to win. It's the world is turned upside down, but the Celtics did, in fact, win tonight, though it wasn't easy, or I should say, nearly as easy as it has been recently. As they were really pushed by the Thunder tonight, they ended up winning 132 to 123. The Celtics were in control for most of this, but Oklahoma City made a run late. As you can see by the score, the Celtics let up a lot of points, 123 points, which has not been happening to them at all. They've been shutting teams down completely and holding teams to under 100 in a lot of games. And tonight, the Thunder's offense was able to do a lot of things, especially late in the game. And they were able to get to the rim sort of at will towards the end of the game. Probably the biggest reason why is no Rob Williams, no Marcus Smart tonight. Your two best defensive players were out with non-COVID illness for Marcus Smart, and Rob Williams has like a muscle pull or strain. Nothing that's particularly serious for either of those guys, but they clearly their lack of being in the lineup affected the Celtics defense tremendously, and the Celtics were lucky to kind of get away with this win here. Had they played a better team, they maybe would have dropped this game. Fortunately for them, the Thunder are one of the worst teams in the league, mostly because they're young and inexperienced. And they should continue to improve. You see some nice players on their team. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, we already know is a good player. It looks like Trey Mann's going to be a good player. He had 35 tonight. So they have interesting pieces on the Thunder, but again, not quite enough to fully come back and win the game. But had they been, a more experienced team, maybe they get the win tonight. Also benefiting the Celtics were both teams were on the second night of a back-to-back, so there was some fatigue there, and I think both teams sort of ran out of gas a little bit towards the end, and the Celtics were able to preserve their lead and hold on to get the win. Um, but in addition to obviously getting an important win for the Celtics because the standings are so tight in the Eastern Conference, and you have to win every single game and go into it with that mentality in order to keep pace. Um, the the real cherry on top of all that and how well they've been playing recently is this was a perfect West Coast trip. And if you look back to earlier in the year, they had a disastrous West Coast road trip that we're going to look at in a second. And just the difference between then and now is just absolutely astounding. So this West Coast trip started in Golden State, where they trounced the Warriors. Then they went to Sacramento. They beat the crap out of the Kings. Then Denver. They destroyed Denver, and then tonight against Oklahoma City, where they won, but they escaped with a win. So that's four wins in a row on the West Coast. So a perfect trip there. And now, if you go back in time and look at what they did on their last West Coast trip, was in December, and it was a loss to Utah. You beat Portland, then you lost to the Lakers, you lost to the Clippers, you lost to the Suns. So pretty miserable trip in December, and then you fast forward to now in March, and you're sweeping a road trip. It's just a remarkable difference that you really never see in the NBA. You don't see teams just completely do a 180 and go from bad to good. And that's what's happened with the Celtics right now. And what I talked about earlier in the season, that there was really no hope and they couldn't sell the fans on hope. Well, now I still don't think they were a legitimate championship contender. I'm hoping they prove me wrong, but they certainly are going into the playoffs with momentum. I know there's still about 9 or 10 games left, and they're also going into it with the belief that they can win, they can beat any team, and their fans, a lot of the fans believe they can beat any team. And so you're going into the playoffs with confidence as opposed to limping in and stumbling into the playoffs via the play in or something like that. So amazing turnaround, and tonight just continued that trend. Even though it wasn't a particularly pretty game, win is ultimately all that matters, and that's what the Celtics did tonight. Again, winning 132 to 123 in Oklahoma City. So let's take a look at the box score. While I still have you guys here watching, appreciate everybody watching, by the way. See you, Leonard, in the chat. As always, my friends, I'll respond to your comments in a second after we look at this box score tonight. Starters tonight, remember, no Marcus Smart, no Rob Williams. So the lineup looked a little bit different tonight. Starting in Rob's place was Grant Williams. Then you had Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Derek White started at the point for Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown rounded out the starting five. Grant Williams, coming off of saying his nickname should be Batman, really backed up that talk, even though it was sort of a joke. He played one of the best games, if not the best game of his career tonight. 38 minutes, 7 of 14 from the floor, 1 of 4 from three, 5 of 6 from the free throw line, 10 rebounds, an assist, a block, no turnovers, and 20 points on the night. And he also grabbed a key rebound late. Just a really, really awesome game from Grant Williams, who has himself had a remarkable turnaround from last year to this year. Jason Tatum did what Jason Tatum does, 39 minutes, which is, I think, more than the Celtics were hoping they'd have to play him tonight on the second night of a back-to-back against a bad team, but they had to. 11 of 19 from the floor, 5 of 11 from three, perfect 9 of 9 from the free throw line, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, a block, 3 turnovers, and 36 points for Tatum. Al Horford didn't do all that much against his former team tonight. 34 minutes, just took one shot attempt. It was a three. He missed it. He did hit 3 of 4 from the free throw line, had 5 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. So he did fill up the stat sheet, just not scoring wise, and finished with 3 points. Derek White did a nice job filling in for Marcus Smart tonight. Still didn't shoot the ball particularly well, especially from three, but was more effective than he has been the past couple of games. 5 of 10 from the floor, 1 of 5 from three. Did get to the free throw line a good amount, 7 of 7 from there. 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a block, and no turnovers and 18 points. You like to see no turnovers when you're filling in at that point guard spot. And Jaylen Brown had a nice game for himself as well. 39 minutes, just like Jason Tatum, I think a little bit more than the Celtics were hoping to have to play him. 10 of 19 from the floor, 2 of 5 from three, 3 of 6 from the free throw line, 3 rebounds and assists, 2 steals, 2 turnovers, and 25 points. And the Celtics went with a short rotation tonight. Only 3 guys played. Sam Hauser, rare 12-minute appearance for him. He had 3 points on 1 of 4 shooting. Daniel Tice, 19 minutes, 4 of 6 from the floor, 8 rebounds, a block, and 9 points. And Peyton Pritchard continues to be hot, shooting 25 minutes for Pritchard, 6 of 13 from the floor, 5 of 11 from three. Yes, he attempted 11 threes off the bench. 3 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and 18 points. And all that resulted in the Celtics win 132 to 123 as the Celtics improved to 45 and 28, 21 and 16 away from the Garden. The Thunder have one of the worst records in the league at 20 and 52, but you can see they have some fight in them, and I think they're building something. They have a million picks coming up, so I don't expect them to be bad for that long. If you're a Thunder fan watching this, I think there is definitely some hope for the future there. As far as the other stats, rebounding battle was virtually identical, 42 for the Celtics, 41 for the Thunder. Thunder turned the ball over 11 times. Celtics turned the ball over 8 times. Celtics shoot 37% from three, 51% from the floor. Thunder shoot 45, almost 46% from three, and 51% from the floor. But despite those higher percentages, the Celtics were able to win this game, and now they head back home after that 4-game West Coast trip to play the Utah Jazz, a very good opponent, on Wednesday. So that should be another good test for the Celtics. Now let's get to your comments. I see you guys in here. Leonard says, I thought this was a trap game and the Celtics would lose. Happy to be proven wrong. Yeah, like I said, maybe if it was a different opponent, they would have lost that game. They certainly didn't play their best basketball, especially down the stretch. But they were able to build up enough of a cushion against an inexperienced, not very good team right now to be able to come out with a win despite not playing their best basketball and missing some players. Genuinely think Tatum needs to be in the MVP conversation, Leonard says. Yeah, I think he's really worked his way into that conversation. I think he has a legitimate chance of finishing 5th in the voting right now. If you listen to the latest pick and roll show with me and myself and Sap, we did our MVP ladder. I would personally vote for Giannis right now, but I think most people would vote for Embiid. But the leading contenders are certainly Giannis, Embiid, and Nikola Jokic. Those guys should finish 1, 2, 3 in some order. Then after that, you can sort of debate who you think should be 4th and 5th. I think that absolutely Tatum is right in that conversation for 4th or 5th. If you want to talk about, DeMar DeRozan having a great year for Chicago, There's plenty of other players that merit consideration. LeBron's having a great statistical year, but he doesn't deserve it based on how poorly the Lakers have played this year. And Kevin Durant hasn't played enough games. But yeah, so Tatum should be right. I think in that 4 or 5 mix, I think absolutely we'll get plenty of consideration there. It should finish the highest that any Celtics finished in the MVP voting since Isaiah Thomas about is the Nets. But since they're not, I'll rank them at 2. I'm going to rank Milwaukee at 1, the defending champs. Giannis is playing as well as he's ever played. So I'll say Milwaukee 1, Brooklyn 2, Philadelphia 3, and either I think the Celtics are 4, tied with Miami. Even Miami is the best record. They did have an ugly loss tonight, losing to the Sixers without Harden or Embiid, sort of inexplicable. But I think the Celtics, if I had to rate them, I'd say 4 right now. And I hope to be proven wrong, and they certainly can continue to climb. And if they finish, as a 3 seed, you might have to consider them ahead of Philadelphia. Philadelphia, I think, has the 2 better players right now. Though I shouldn't say that. I'd say Embiid is the best player, then Tatum, then Harden, then Brown. That's how I would rank them. Um, but they don't have a lot of depth. The Celtics aren't really deep either, but they're deeper than the Sixers, so that might separate them. I think everybody's sort of interested to see what Philly looks like in the postseason, especially defensively, and how good a shape Harden and Embiid are in. So I hope that answers your question right now. Leonard's saying, really hope that JT and JB click and play well together in the playoffs. Starting to see more of these games where they both play well in the same game. Yeah, and that was a big problem earlier in the season that you pointed out, Leonard, that they didn't seem to play well often together. And now, as the team's been winning more, they have been playing a lot better together. I think that has to do with both guys being a little bit more mature and figuring out how to be more facilitators and playmakers. Especially Jason Tatum's done a great job with that, and become a better facilitator. But yeah, it's nice to see them playing well together. But obviously, like you said, Leonard, they're going to be judged on how they do in the postseason, and this team is going to be judged on how they do in the postseason. And just because it's a great turnaround in the regular season, the it's not a success unless they win a series and then at the very least make the second round super competitive. Like I'm talking 7 games. And I think that the real threshold should be getting to the Eastern Conference Finals for this team to consider this season a success. So regardless of how well they play down the stretch, if they win the rest of their games and they don't have a good postseason, the season's going to be considered a failure. So that's how it works. Fair or not, that is how it works, and we'll have to see how they do in the postseason. But I appreciate all you guys watching. Appreciate the questions and comments, Leonard and Glenn. As always, it's great to have you guys participate in the chat. And anybody who has a question or a comment or anything watching after the fact, if you're not watching live, just comment down below. Glad to respond to you. Talk about whatever you want, Celtics wise, basketball wise, whatever. I will get back to you, and make sure you like and subscribe. And I'll be back with a new post game for the Jazz game. See you, everybody.